talk a little bit about what we can talk about from an Intel point of view. Thanks for being there, everybody that's out there in Big Call Universe around the world. Because we do have an international listening audience, and we do make our way around into, the Middle East and into obviously the Caribbean and part of the Far East, and of course North and South America and so on. Let's talk first of all, just briefly, about the redemption centers, is my tendency to call the exchange locations or redemption centers. We use redemption centers because we're going to be redeeming the ZIM. Okay, and that's where we get that term, redemption center. We're exchanging currency, but we're redeeming ZIM. Okay, so that's slight difference in those two. But when you call the toll-free number, whenever we get that number and you see it to call it, you'll be dialed in, and you tell them if you have you tell them that first, and then they'll say what currencies do you have, and you let them know, and then they'll route you, if you have ZIM, to another call center, which is the ZIM call centers, okay? The secondary call centers they're referred to as. And you'll get that direct connection over to that call center. You won't have to redial the number. They'll just connect you to it. And then you go ahead and give them the information they request, and then they'll want your zip code and so on, and then you can set your appointment for going in. If you don't have ZIM, then you won't get transferred to a secondary call center. You'll just make your appointment with your primary call center. All right, now, the other thing is remember when we said we had 7,430 exchange locations in North America? That would include Canada, not really including Mexico, but really the U.S. and Canada. We are up to over 8,400 exchange locations just in the U.S. alone. Just in the United States, not including Canada. I'm thinking Canada is somewhere in the vicinity of 1,200 in Canada, plus or minus. That's the number I vaguely remember. But talking about the U.S. right now, no offense to our neighbors to the north, because we do love you and care about you, Canada. But when it comes to the U.S. Mainland, the contiguous 48 states, we have over 8,400. Now, we also have, guys, Tier 1 banks that would be HSBC, Wells Fargo, Citibank, Chase, and did I say Wells Fargo? Let's see, yeah. 5 Tier 1 banks, plus a number of Tier 2 banks, also totaling a total of about 24,000 locations that will be doing currency exchanges. They will be doing currency exchanges. And not all will be doing ZIM, of course. Okay? Some will, but not all will, that's for sure. So you've got a total of somewhere in the vicinity of 8,400 plus over 24,000, or plus or minus 24,000 Tier 1 and Tier 2 banks. Let's call it 32,500, something in that range of redemption centers and bank branches that are going to be all set up for us. Now, what's interesting, and the reason I bring this up, is to let you know that the whole U.S. is well covered, number one. But number two, and they're ready, by the way, they're all ready for us, especially the redemption centers. They have been staffed, and they are on high alert, and they are ready to go. So are the call centers. They're also ready to go, primary and secondary call centers. Everybody's lined up and ready. But what I wanted to bring to you about the idea of the exchange locations and redemption centers is that they are all, including those banks I mentioned, connected to all the banks around the world, to all the central banks around the world. Everybody is interconnected as of 1:15 p.m. this afternoon, Eastern Standard Time. So as of 1:15, all these banking institutions and redemption centers are finally interconnected and able to, and we're going to say they're hooked up to the new SWIFT system. Because remember what we had, the SWIFT system, which was used for doing bank wires, okay, and remember how sometimes it would take a few days, sometimes it would take several days, and international wires, forget about it, some of it would take a long, long time. Well, when the SIPS system came in, and that was really the system of choice, of preference, things started happening much, much faster. International bank wires could take as little as 28 seconds and maybe as much as 57, 59 seconds to complete. I mean, they are much, much faster. Now, that SIP system has been integrated into the SWIFT system, and therefore the U.S. bankers tend to call it the new SWIFT system. They don't tend to refer to it as the SIPs, even though really it is the SIPs in conjunction with the SWIFT. So but they refer to it as the new SWIFT system. So all of those banks are all interconnected. They're all set up through satellite. They're all hooked up. They're all ready to go. That's my whole point in that. Now, the central banks around the world are all interconnected also on a separate system called the RTGS, Real-Time Global System, RTGS. And that's keeping all of the central banks in communicato, if you will, in communication with each other. Okay? And that's a cool thing. And that's been done in the last couple of days. That's been set up. Now, what I think is interesting is that our president, President Trump, has done a really good job of representing our trade situation and our policies over in the Far East on this Far East tour, by spending a couple of days in South Korea, a couple of days in, was it 1 day in South Korea, 2 in Japan, I believe, with President Shinzo Abe, and that went really, really well. And then yesterday and today with President Xi in China, and that's been going very well. And he had a state dinner last night. That was really cool. And he was ready to leave out at 9 a.m. Local time in Beijing. Let's call it tomorrow morning, because that's what it is for us. He's leaving for Vietnam for a kind of a little conference with a number of nations in Southeast Asia, including China, including Japan, South Korea, possibly some from North Korea, I understand, and maybe a few others, okay? So that meeting, I think, could be highly significant. And I think maybe our timing could be geared toward after that meeting is completed sometime. I've heard that we are kind of in another window now for what we're looking for, which is to be notified. There have had some more things that have been accomplished in the last couple of days, even today, that we didn't really know were really required or were needed. But couple other things I can think of have come up that were accomplished. And I think that we are looking for, everything to proceed here in the next few days. At least that's what I'm hearing. Guys, we don't get into rates and dates because they sort of change and they're hard to pin down. And even though we're hearing that rates have been traded up and they've been continued to trade upward, I think we're going to be very pleased on that. In all cases, very well pleased. And I think we should just not worry about that at all and just kind of be in prep mode. I've been told here in the last few days to be ready, to be on alert, to be ready to get a phone call. And sometimes it's a little higher, let's say, alert level for me, and other times it tends to just subside a little bit. And I've kind of been a little bit on that mini roller coaster myself, thinking I was going to get a call soon or whenever, So I'm prepared to get a call anytime, day or night, and I consider it an honor to be the one that's chosen to represent the Internet group by getting that number. And I'll put that number out and get it to the proper locations, like our two websites, both bigcalluniverse.com, and then we'll also have it on thebigcall.net. We'll have it on both of them. And then anybody that's registered to the new website, which is bigcalluniverse.com, when you want to go to that site and put your email in, those people will get the 800 number by way of email directly to them. And we have a number of people that have already registered for us that way. So we'll have that sent out. We'll also be letting you know about our future projects, about our future podcasts or calls. And, we'll just let you know when there's going to be by email. We'll give you a heads up on that, because we do plan to take a good month off. Now, we are coming into the holidays. Tomorrow, by the way, is not Veterans Day. However, it is going to be honored as Veterans Day, as a federal holiday tomorrow, because it falls on Saturday, is November 11th. That is true Veterans Day. And I think some banks have options whether they want to whether they want to close on that Saturday or whether they want to close tomorrow. I know that some banks, I think, will close Saturday. I know a few that are, but I don't know if other banks are going to be closed tomorrow. I don't know how much that will affect us, however, in terms of our timing for our start. Okay, so just keep that in mind. You guys know in your own towns whether your own banks are open or not tomorrow, but they will observe it, I believe, as a federal holiday. It will be observed tomorrow. Okay? Now, I heard something I thought I heard today that was very, very positive that the president said while he was still in Beijing. And that was that tomorrow should be let's see, what was it called? Well, let me just do this. Let me just say it was going to be, I can't remember the exact wording, guys, forgive me, but it was something about being a national day. I just can't think of what it is. A national day for the world. And it was more than that. It was more than that. But the gist of it was, it sounded like a very positive day for the world tomorrow. And I thought, well, that could be very, very meaningful to us. And possibly some announcement of some kind could come out of this meeting tomorrow. Who knows? Who knows what it means? But I really think that we are moving along with more and more things happening. Now, as far as Iraq is concerned, we understand that they just today have their key cards to where the people can go on and see something about the oil revenue sharing that they get a portion of All the citizens of Iraq get a portion of that. They should be able to go to their key cards and enter that their information into where they can see about that. My understanding is that should be available to them in a couple of days, and it might be Sunday. I don't remember exactly, but it seemed like it was a couple of days away that they could have access to that. So that's pretty cool. That's moving along nicely. Other than that, guys, Intel is, things are happening. I'm sure there's a little bit more that has to happen. I've been given kind of a window that takes us through, let's say, into Saturday, possibly into Sunday. So we'll just kind of watch for it and be available and be ready. I would say we're just going to keep doing what we're doing on Plan A and be ready when this thing does pop for us, and we'll get the toll-free number out to everybody. All right? So that's really where we are right now, and I'm just glad everybody was able to come in and listen again tonight and come in. I'm hoping, like I do, that tonight is our last call before the blessing, and I do believe that it should be the case. Our next scheduled call wouldn't be until Tuesday night, which I hope we don't do. Do not plan to do that call. Plan for us to be there before Tuesday, okay? So let's hope that's the case. Let's all believe together for that. Let's check in